So just to repeat, there was absolutely no reason that you needed to have a canvas that had black on it. I just so happened to have this canvas. It's all going to get covered anyway. It doesn't matter. You can still work from a plain white canvas, or even a canvas that you don't like and you want to go over it. It's completely fine. So I just kind of used the very tail end of a color that I had and just lopped it on there with a brush, with a wide brush. But you did not have to do that. All right, so we are going to start tonight by jumping right in here. And I have an 11 by 14 inch canvas. Tonight, based on what we're doing, I'm going to recommend that you keep it in this portrait acclimation rather than in the landscape mode, just because the idea that I have involves, hair going up and things coming down and everything. I decided tonight I'm going to use warm colors because I just don't tend to use these colors very much outside of flowers. And so to challenge myself tonight, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to use a whole bunch of my warmer palette colors. So I'm putting in some oranges. I'm going to lay in a little bit of a red. I'm even going to use, you're not going to believe it, for people who've been working with me for a long time, I rarely use browns, and I'm going to use some browns. Like, I'm really trying to use some of the paints that kind of sit around here for a while. See, they even have the crusty tops on them. I'm going to start by grabbing some of this like browny color here a little bit. And I just want you to be free a little bit, to not think too much. We just want to kind of cover the canvas a bit. And mine is even a little bit wet because I just used this, whatever that color was that I just used. What was that? That was like an unbleached titanium because I was just using it up. So I'm just hitting this canvas wherever I want without any real regard for much of anything. And I know it probably looks like I'm making a face, and I guess I, sort of am, because this is my process here, but it doesn't matter. Like, I can go over here, and I will. So I'm just going to try and use as much of my paint on my palette as I can. Put a little bit over here. If you're using a canvas, you might want to remember to do your edges. Sometimes I forget to do my edges, and then later they look not so great. So that's kind of a hot tip for you. I'm going to grab some of this other brown and kind of lay this other brown in. So I'm working very quickly with things that are very wet. So I'm kind of going brown over brown here, which is fine. I'm just really trying to use it all. Brown up in here. So just have fun, put it in where you got it. Don't put it in where you don't want it. You really can't mess this up. Trying to get it in kind of thick. And then you can see I emptied out my palette. And so I'm like, on to the next color. So with the same brush, I'm going to grab some orange, and I'm just going to pop some orange into this, sort of continuing to broaden my, I don't know, I'm just playing. It doesn't matter. Adding some colors. Same principles though. If I do something orange up here, I'm probably going to do something a little bit orangey down here. And I'll probably add a little bit up in here as well. So first, I'm just going to work on this background and building it up. I'm going to grab my deeper color orange here. Same brush, or you could change if you prefer, but I'm just dropping some stuff in here. No rhyme or reason, just have fun. But since I've done two there, I'm going to bring some down here and just keep dragging it around. Kind of turned into this weird coral color a little bit. which is fine. Then I'm going to rinse it because I want to get some reds in. I just want to get rid of that brown a little bit. I'm going to grab some reds here. And I'm going to pull some of that red. Ooh, that's very red. You know what? I'm going to make that more of a pink. So here's these moments where I'm just like, ooh, that's really, really red. So I'm going to grab some white. Squeeze a little bit of the white on my palette, which literally just flopped onto my palette. And so I'm going to just turn that a little bit of a pinkier color, not for any good reason, except for that, wow, it was really very red, but that's not to say that there was anything wrong with the red, just that it was a little bit not what I was going for. That's a little bit better with the pink undertones there. And a little bit up and over here too. And I got some down here already. Just wiping off my brush basically. So this is super loose, guys. Like I don't know exactly where we're going yet, but it'll get there. It'll get there somehow. I'm just wiping off my brush. There's no real thoughts happening yet. I do like that, so I'm gonna add some more of that white and pink. I'm kind of liking that corally color. I'm gonna lay some of that down. Try and grab a little bit more of that brown. So just lay it in. No matter. Pretty happy with that so far. It just looks like a hell of a lot of nothing. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually grab my pencil and I'm going to think a little bit about where I might want a face and some lines for the body. And I'm going to keep this really loose, really loose. So I'm not really worried, but I'm going to make the face. I'm using my pencil right into the wet paint. And I'm just kind of creating a place where I feel like the face could go. And I'm going to pull down something that's like some kind of a neck. And just some kind of a shape. You can't probably see that too well, but I literally just did that up on top of my paint. It's just a guideline for me. It's just a guideline for what's going to be coming next. So my next step is going to seem scary, I think. So again, I'm just trying to keep it loose tonight so you guys can see my process. I've got a little bit of black. Mine is actually a Mars black. I think there's also something called, there's a different kind of an ebony black. Either black is fine. And I'm going to go into, and it's all very wet. I'm going to go into this shape that I just made with a little pen, you know, with a little pencil. And I'm going to just give myself a little bit of a black line to like a guideline sort of to follow here. So I'm just creating the face that I am now going to start to, it's now going to be born out of this thing. Yeah, this will be good. So I just created just this very simple line. And if you want to, you can take your pencil again and go right in through that black line if you want to. And kind of cut it up. It'll break it up a little bit. If you put on enough, it should be wet enough so that it'll leave like a little bit of a line. So it sort of almost looks like you went through it with a white Sharpie or something like that. All right, I'm cool with that. So my next thing, believe it or not, is I want to play around with the face. Now we're at face. So this is where I'm going to start to layer all my different skin tones. So when I do acrylic studies like this, I like to start with my darks and then get lighter. So I'm going to grab a, I guess I'm going to use this, like, what have I got here? Got a lot of different browns. Unbleached titanium. Naples yellow. Oh, here's a good one. Raw sienna. Okay. I'm going to start with a raw sienna. And I'm going to put this into my palette. And I'm going to see what it looks like if I add, if I keep half of it, and then I'm going to add just a little bit of white to it too, and see what that does, just to, get a different value. So I like that. So I'm going to put my raw sienna down first whole. And so I'm literally just with my brush, I'm going into the face and I'm laying it down, and it looks really, really orangey, and it just got a little black in it because of that line. It's fine. Doesn't matter. It's just my first pass, but I do want it to not be wet. So it's best to use your paint dry here. Mine got a little wet because I used the brush that I'd previously been using. But so this is a little bit of that raw sienna with just a little, this is the raw sienna full power, and it has some water on it unintentionally. And now I'm gonna pull a little bit of this raw sienna just kind of down into the neck a little bit too. So I'm just pulling it down, and you can see I got some of the black in there. It's fine, no prob. Just gonna build up this girl. Try not to get in your head. Just sort of try to enjoy the process of this, because it's really a revelation when it comes. So I just added some white for no good reason. So now it's like a little gray. It's fine. I'm going to pull some of that up into the head. So I'm just playing with different tones here a little, just until you get what you like for the main color of the flesh, because there's going to be cheeks and eyes and all kinds of other colors going in here. So it's just, we're building it up. Why don't you build me up? I like that. And then of course, because I have that over here, I'm also going to put some of it down over here as well. And maybe down over here or something into here. So I'm still moving things around. And I'm even going to take the side of my credit card, like I said, and I'm going to just kind of smear things around down here a little bit. Try a couple of different edges. Maybe a little roller action. Oh, I like the roller better than the credit card. That makes it much nicer. You don't have to have any of these things. Like I said, I'm just showing you how loose it is, but it just doesn't matter. I can even roll up in here a bit into the hair that I had, or not hair. I don't want to call it the hair, but the hairline, and just really just let that go. Move things around. I'm going to get my edge a little bit. I want to go and think about the eyes a bit here. And I'm actually going to grab my pencil, and I'm going to actually put in some eyes here. And you guys know my proportions, that if you want, or your proportions and my proportions, I tend to like things to be kind of whimsical. So I make my eyes a little bit lower than the top third than they're supposed to be. So I'm going to just kind of give myself a very rough right into the paint, which is quite wet. I'm going to give myself a little bit of an eye here. And if you don't like what you did, just so you know, not that I didn't, but I'm just going to If you don't like it, you can go right in there and do it again. So say I didn't like that. I use my pencil to figure out where I want the features to go. So I just actually scratch them right into the canvas. If you don't like where you place things initially, you can just take a brush and kind of blot them out or paint over it until you get things in the place that you like. Then I'm going to use my pencil and I'm going to create something that looks vaguely like a brow. So there's like an easy little brow. We're going to go paint over all this after, but there's just my guidelines. There's a cute little brow, just some expressiveness. For my nose, you all know I kind of make like a little U with sort of like little dots on the end there. So there's my nose. And then I'm going to do the same thing I always do. I'm going to create that center line in the mouth. Give myself a nice M-shaped upper lip. And maybe we'll go with like a small little lower lip. I don't usually do that, but I'm doing it because otherwise she won't have much of a chin. That's gonna be cute. And I'm gonna do the same thing that I usually do with my eyes, except I'm gonna make her looking off to a direction. So I'm gonna make her looking off to the right. So all that means is I gotta put something down so I don't get this all over me here. I'm just setting this down for let me go get a cleaner cloth. And it doesn't matter if the paint comes off because for me, it's all gonna change anyway. So I'm going to make a little eyeball that's sort of over here. And then that would be like the iris. And then I'm gonna do the same thing over here. So she's gonna be looking off to the right this time. So I'm just playing here a little bit to get the proportions sort of right-ish, I would say is maybe the word I'm looking for here. That's a cute little face. Okay, great. Those are my proportions for right now. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start to go lighter and lighter. So I have this yellow oxide color. It doesn't matter. If you have whatever you have in the browns, you can make it work. So you can use the color either full power, or you can add a little white to it. So I'm gonna grab a little bit of it at full power, and I'm gonna just sort of see what it looks like if I go right up and over where I was. So I'm just kind of going over things a little. And it's a little yellowy for me, but it's okay for a second pass. So I'm gonna just go with it, use it a little bit. And then I'm gonna grab some of my white and mix that with that color and see if that's maybe a little better. And I'm like liking it much more. So I'm gonna go right up and over. And now I'm kind of going around the features that I sort of vaguely created here. I'm going, so you can see like this black is getting blended. I'm going to continue with that color that I had, which was a little bit of the white with what was that color called? That was yellow oxide. I don't recommend that so much, but I'm going to make it work. So I'm going to go right up against that kind of yellowy stuff that I created. And I'm just going to fill in and just kind of keep going over that skin little by little. So that's my second pass. Once I get kind of like a nice second pass on my skin, then I'm going to go into my eyes. And you can push this color over your black line. I don't know if you can see what I'm talking about here. Let me see if I can show you. So if I want this line to push out, I'm pushing toward the left to expand over that black line. If I want her to have a little bit more of a chin, I can expand over that black line. So I'm I'm pushing out toward the way that I want her face to expand, if that makes sense. So I just pushed it out a little bit. And maybe you had the line perfect and you didn't really have to adjust it. That's fine. I just needed to do a little adjusting. Her face is gonna be cute. Now I'm ready to do the eyes. All right, eyes. I like to use, I have this color, it is called Buttermilk. It's a crappy color that I got from Target for like 59 cents. But I have found this to be a really great color for when I am doing eyes. And all I'm going to do is grab a little bit of this buttermilk and I'm going to put it into the eye, right where we sort of had things. And I just want it to go into the area that would be kind of like the whites of the eye, if that makes sense. But you know what? I'm going to just cover the whole entire stinking eye with it. It's just going to be easier. So let's just make it, I'm going over that shape that I had created already. I'm just going to go over with this buttermilk color. If you want to create a color, all you really need to do is get a little bit of yellow and a little bit of white. And that will create what will eventually become the whites of the eye, because true eyes don't just have white in them. They've got a little bit of a, you know, sometimes a little bit of yellow cast. So I use that butter color. And then I'm going to go over that with a little bit of white right now. So I'm just mixing a little bit here. So that's a little bit of white that just went up and over. It's going to still have that buttercreamy color. Cool. So I just made a weird looking alien. And because I've got this brush all loaded up, I'm going to just kind of pull some off. So I'm always kind of moving my brush around. So next thing is I got to decide what color I want her eyes to be. You can make the eyes whatever color you want. Somebody recently, said to me, you never use brown. You never do blue eye. You always do blue and green. Okay, fine. So I am going to take a little bit of this brush and I'm going to do a brown eye. So I'm just using a brush that I already had used. And I'm going to use a couple of different browns, just like I would have if I was using a colored pencil, how I use 3 differents. So I just used one color there. And I'm even going to take the challenge and use this darkest color brown that I never use. It's burnt umber. It's super dark. I'm putting it in. You guys. I'm going to smaller brush. So I'm going to even take a little bit of this burnt, see what I call it was, what I say it was, burnt umber. And I'm going to put that right over on top of that brown that I just did, because I'm giving this girl dark brown eyes for her pupils. Because they say I never do it. And because she's going to be looking to the right, I'm going to make those pupils go way, or those irises, I should say. I guess I've been saying pupils. The irises, the colored part of her eye, I'm making them go way over to the right. See, she's looking to that one side. And don't be afraid to use your pencil. It's fine. You can get a nice little cleaner line in there sometimes when you use your pencil. Helps. Little guideline. Okay, that's good. I'm liking that. My next color that I'm going to introduce is, I've got a little bit of this Naples yellow. So I'm going to grab a little of this Naples yellow. Just going to see, just for kicks and giggles, putting it into my palette. And same kind of thing. I'm going to go up and into the head. Next, I'm going to bring in some more white. So I'm going to pull in a little bit of white up in here. this is a pretty dry brush that I'm using. And I'm going to pull that right down toward that nose. I don't know if this is like too subtle for you to see it, but it's not too subtle on my end here. So I'm going to pull it down. Get up over that eye a little. Ooh, it's still turning kind of gray. That's not what I'm going for. I definitely don't want it to be gray. I don't want her face to turn gray. So then I'm gonna dry my brush if that starts to happen. And just kind of get back in. That might not happen to you. That might be happening because I've got the black canvas underneath it. So I'm probably straining against something that's going to keep happening because of the black underneath. So I just have to kind of work with that, I suppose. So I'm going to give her that little T-zone. So I'm kind of using that color that was underneath to create that that like highlight under, you know, how I sometimes put color there. I'm kind of giving her like an eyeshadow just because of the color that was behind it, because I'm going lighter, if that makes sense. So I'm just continuing to add my colors, my lighter and lighter. At this point, I'm starting to lose the nostrils a little. So I'm going to go right back in with my pencil for right now. My center line. And I think we need to give her some kind of like an ear thing over here. Just a hint of an ear. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to drop in a pupil for this girl, the black dot in the eye. So I'm going to use that same little brush, grab myself some of that black that I had before. And I'm going to give her her pupil, and it's really going to be way over here to the side. She's looking over that way. So I'm really darkening that corner. I hope you can see that. I hope you can see how far over, and because her eye's going to be coming way over this way, I'm giving her this, her pupils going way over. I got to a point where things were starting to get a little smudgy, so I realized it was time to use the hairdryer. So I used the hairdryer until everything was dry. You could also take a pause here and just wait for your painting to dry naturally. Now I'm going to just add my little center line here between the lips, right where I want it. And I'm going to commit to this nose situation. Looks great. And I'm going to give her what I always do. You know, I give those, that like eyeliner line. So I'm going to just give her a nice black line, and it doesn't matter because we're going to still be going over this, but just so that I have a little bit of a guideline for myself. So there's a little bit of that brow line, or not brow line, the lash line. And you can always do like a little, I don't want to call it even a cheat because I don't really think about it as a cheat, but rather than with a paintbrush, you can always use your gel pen for some of the finer details. And I definitely do. And sometimes I do them at the end of a painting, but because I'm going to continue to layer, I don't want to lose this. I don't want to lose this, this definition here. So I'm going to put a little bit of, very little bit of this color. I have like is it a magenta? It's a magenta. I'm going to put it right in my palette. And same thing, I'm going to, just like I always do, I'm going to go over the whole entire lip, following my line where I had it as best I can, but it doesn't matter because we can fix it later. And I'm going to do her upper and her lower lip here. I kind of kept her lower lip small this time. You know how I usually do that big, deep U, but this time I just didn't go that way. But you could. So there's her nice, deep lip. And then while things are still wet, and while I still have that color in here, I'm going to grab a little bit of my white. Maybe that's enough. I'm not sure. Probably need a little bit more. So I'm using the same color, but I'm going to add a little bit of white to it over here. And I'm going to put that color onto just her bottom lip. Just her bottom lip. And it doesn't matter if I go over that middle line, because I'll be able to get it back in a second. So I'm giving her that line right there. And then I'm going to take my pencil and I'm going to just excavate lightly for that middle line. And now I have all this great color here. So I think what I'm going to do is, believe it or not, I'm going to lop some right on her cheek. I mean, I don't know if it's going to work, but I'm going for it. I'm not even thinking about it. It's the hint of a color. It's the hint of a, it's fine. Everything's fine. It's fine. And then of course, to move it around, I'm going to put it in a couple of different places and just get it off my brush. Getting it nice, just moving it around in 3 places. It just creates that energy for the eye. So I'm really just not thinking about it. Okay, and then I think I'm going to do a similar thing for over here with this side of her face. I'm going to grab a little bit of this like darker orange that I barely used. And I'm going to try that on the other side of her face. I don't know, it may not be orangey enough. We'll see. Maybe. And I'm going to you could do the same. I could have done the same color, right? I could have put that pinky color on this other side of her face, but I just didn't. For no good reason, just because it doesn't have to make sense, this stuff. And I'll probably put a little bit up on her nose. Maybe a little bit up, going up to her forehead, and maybe even a little bit down like that. And then I'm going to grab that same tone and smear it around a little bit. Smear. I'm going to use my roller again to roll it around because I just like how that looks. So I hope you're getting a sense of this is just so freeing for me. Something is going to eventually come out of this. And I just don't know exactly where it's going at, but you can see a face and a person is like being born out of all this paint. And I just keep going back to my paint that I have. And I'm going to just kind of keep putting colors up and in. I hope you're getting a sense of that. And I'm just continuing to layer and layer any of these like blank spots that might be on my palette. I'm going to keep putting them in. They can be changed later, but I'm mostly still just trying to cover all my blank spots, all my dry spots. And now, because I'm like, whoa, that face is really intense, I'm going to go back in with one of my lighter colors. This is my buttercream color that I used before. And I'm going to go in again. And now you can see how light that is with sort of a dry, this is a pretty dry brush that I'm using. This is a very dry brush treatment that I'm using. And I'm just really pushing that into my canvas. And I'm going to go with that color up and over a lot of that color that I just laid in. So it's going to kick it down a notch, if that makes sense. I mean, hopefully you'll be able to see what I'm talking about in a minute. It's just going to bring it down just a little bit. Just dull it down just a little. So it's not like orange, peach, So hopefully you can have an appreciation for that, it just, by adding white just the littlest bit, or adding either white or some neutral or whatever. It just will dial it down just that littlest bit. The trick, of course, is that I don't want it to turn the whole piece. Like I don't want her whole face to turn orange. So I'm gonna try this. I may need it to dry a little bit more before I go back in. I can even go up and over that mouth a little bit. It's fine. Really, really dry brush. So I'm pushing the colors. And then I'm going to go back in again with my black gel and reestablish my nostril on each side. And she's got a like a cute little brow that's coming out of this. So I'm going to give her that cute little brow on this side too. Just let it happen. Like see how thick that one is? It's so short and stubby, but I kind of like it. Cute. Look at her cute little face. I'm going to lighten up that ear a little. All right, I'm liking this. I'm liking this. I'm going to also put a little bit on the neck. Lighten that up a little. Some dry brushing. Hopefully you can see it just tones it down. So the black is still there, but it's toned down a little bit. I am grabbing yet another sort of fleshy color that I have. It's called Parchment, and I'm going to use that on the painting as well. So this is a different one, and same thing. I'm gonna go a little bit up and in, and I'm gonna do some big strokes here. I want chunky highlights. So I'm gonna go back in under her chin. Kind of coming on down here. So just real loose. Bringing down some of that color into the nose. Again, my brush is really dry. Just dry, 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 dry. Get that back into the ear a bit. So there's no real right or wrong here. This is just being very intuitive on my part. I'm just playing with it. It's all gonna, it looks like a face. You know, I always say that same line, right? Like it clearly looks like a person. It doesn't look like a tree. And I'm okay with that. And then I might want to pop a little bit more of that pink in there. Maybe a little bit more of that orange over here. That's good. Good stuff. So I've really lightened her up. If you wanted her to have darker skin, obviously you could do that as well. But this is what's coming out tonight. Pop in some of that darker brown. Ooh, I like that. I just never use brown, but I'm liking that so much. This is that darkest brown color, that umber. That looks nice. That looks really nice from where I am right now. So I'm gonna use some of that. And it's kind of lovely, actually. But that was like a nice surprise for me. That really sort of deepens things in a nice way. Okay, I like that. Next, I'm going to think a little bit about her. I'm going to think a little bit about her. I want to do a little bit more of, I'm going to grab some other colors that I didn't yet use. So this is a primary red. It just says red primary. So I'm actually not even going to put this on my palette. I'm just going to plop some of this in here. This is just for fun. So I'm making like the letter I, a lowercase I. And because I did that there, I'm going to put some of that up in here. And because I did that there, I'm going to do some of it over here. So I am just picking whatever colors appeal to me and doing that thing that I've told you about many times. I'm just using it to move the eye around a little bit. So I know that this is annoying for you guys because see, this is what happens. I start to get so into my process that I stop using my palette. And so I'm just kind of like squeezing out some colors at this point that may or may not make sense for you. So I'm going to just encourage you to play tonight with that same principle that we have talked about multiple times, which is if you introduce a color somewhere, you gotta introduce it somewhere else. So I'm still sort of trying to fill the black spaces that I had previous. So now I'm really kind of aggressively doing that. So, I've got choices like, look, it kind of looks like hair. Can you see what's happening here? I actually have something that's kind of weirdly looking like a big redheaded girl. So I could go that route. I'm just letting it happen. Your thing may be totally different. So I don't know. Can you guys see what I'm talking about? That it almost looks like she'd have like almost like two poofles or something like that. Like I could add a lot of black or a different color in here to really, maybe I'll show you what I mean if you can't see it, because I'm kind of liking this. If I get some darks into here and like, if I introduce this sort of, can you see it? That like, that's kind of a funky, I just kind of make, she has like a serious poofle there. I like that. I'm gonna kind of go with it, I think. So maybe over here, I'm gonna pull this in. But you don't have to. You could make her hair go up. You could make her hair go down. So whatever is happening for you is the right way. It's the right thing. So just let it go. I mean, I'm going, there it is. I like that she's got that. So this blue poofle, I'm kind of covering up with some black ear color now. And because I have some of this stuff on my brush. Now, this is something you may not have seen me do before. And maybe I'll just wait a minute to do it, but I am going to turn this painting sideways in a minute so you can see what's going to happen there. So I'm going to have to put something onto her forehead, like she needs something going on with her forehead, some kind of red into her forehead. It looks like she looks like a moon-faced girl right now, but I'm liking that. I'm liking that gesture and that face that she's got going there. So that's very unexpected. That's a cool thing that's kind of happened there, and I'm going with it. I decided that I wanted to use a contrasting color from all this red and orange that's happening. So I decided to use some teal, and I went right out of the tube and just kind of aggressively started to layer in some teal. This is just very intuitive for me. I'm blending it. I'm not worrying if it turns a little bit gray in places. There's going to be a lot of different layers coming on here. So I'm just starting with the teal first. And then after a while, I got a little bit, I rolled it, and then I actually ended up lightening it a little bit with some white. And then I ended up grabbing my lightest blue and going, I'm blow drying it here. And then after everything was dry, I then went back over it with some light blue color. So I'm really just blending and blending and blending to create an interesting background here.
Then I decided, I felt like I had taken out a lot of the dark, so I decided to reintroduce some darks into the piece, and you know, just kind of etching with my pencil, just having fun.
I want some darks in here. I'm gonna throw some darks in here. I don't know, you guys. I mean, I could just do the whole thing black, but that just doesn't seem like the right thing to do. I know what I'm gonna do. Ha! Just solved my problem. I said I was gonna turn my canvas. That is exactly what I'm going to do. So I'm gonna flip my canvas around, which I don't always have the opportunity to do because things are sometimes taped down. So I'm gonna take, hopefully you can see this. I'm gonna take some very watered down black and I'm gonna let things drip in this direction. I'm just gonna let them go. So I'm just pushing it down, not thinking. I actually don't even really know what this is gonna look like because it's coming from the other direction. So I'll look at it in a little while. I'm sure it'll all be okay. Maybe, oh, look at that. If I blot it off, it gives me a little bit of that orange underneath, which is cool. Oh, I kind of like that. That's kind of neat. Give me some of that stuff for relief underneath it. I don't hate that. It's kind of neat. Some stripes. All right, I'm hair drying again, then I have another idea. All right, I am switching my medium right now. I mean, in a minute anyway, not quite yet, but I'm going to use this charcoal. I have it as a pencil, and I also have this as a little chunk. You can go either way with it. But before I do anything else, I gotta make this a little bit heavier here. Like I need more coverage. So I'm gonna go in with I'm gonna grab a cloth. I'm gonna show you what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna grab a cloth. I'm gonna just put some other colors down here a little bit. I'm gonna show you what I'm gonna do. And I'm going to use my finger and I'm just going to get really into this canvas. I had a lot of space and I don't mind the black coming through sometimes, but I really want to fill this in a bit. So I'm using my finger and a little bit of white just to blend all this stuff in a little bit because I just want it to be more coverage. And then I'll show you what I'm going to do. I'm liking this though, but I need more coverage. So I'm going to put in some of this purple. I'm going to put in some more of that blue that I had already put in. She could have a cool necklace. Like maybe I'll put some collage beads on her. I don't know. She's not going to be done tonight. I can tell you that much. She's just not going to be done. But what I'm going to do now with now I got to blow dry again, but I am going to use my charcoal next. I'm going to do some fun stuff.
I needed to get the painting really dry again because I'm about to change medium and use that charcoal that I talked about earlier. So here we go. And then I grabbed my white Uniball marker and I just added the little whites to her eyes, which immediately makes her look so much more lifelike. And I'm also going to put a tiny little highlight right onto her lip, just a little bit of shine.
Now I'm going to use my charcoal a little bit. I'm going to turn my piece and I'm going to just have some fun here and like make some shapes. You can do them with your dominant hand. You can do them with your non-dominant hand. I'm going to kind of just like make some cool like lines and squiggles. around her a little bit, kind of up and over these drippy marks that I made. Just playing and having fun. If you don't like that, you don't have to, but I like that. I'm gonna maybe do a little bit up around her hair, just for some definition. Squiggle, squiggle. And then I got to figure out a little bit like what's happening here and here. So just a little bit more and then we'll stop for tonight. We can finish things on our own. She definitely needs like either hair coming down. So it's like a weird hat that she's wearing. So maybe she's wearing a weird hat. I don't know. Should it be hair? Should it be like bangs? No, it should be hair. That should be her hair. So I gotta go back in and give her a little bit of something on her forehead, just a little bit, because it's kind of weird. So I'm gonna go back in to her forehead and just give her a little bit, a couple more pops, just to kind of break that a little bit. And then I'm gonna go in with, all the same things, the browns and all that again. Just gonna get it all in there so it doesn't read like that I just did it at the end. Gonna grab a new brush, one with a square brush just because it's here. Boop, boop, boop. I mean, it is what it is, right? Get a little bit up in there. Boop, 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 boop. Okay. I'm gonna drop. So I'm gonna have to move this camera way up, like up, because what I want to do is I just want to drop some on here. I know this is super scary, right? I've never actually even dropped this on anything. So let's see what oh yeah. So ready? I'm gonna dribble. Drop, drop. I'm just dripping this stuff, guys. Squeezing and dripping. That's great. I'm gonna put a little up in here. Just going a little bit over there. Wow. Okay, I like that. That was also very scary. I really want a little bit more pop in color. So I'm gonna introduce a little bit more color here. Just a little bit more of a pop. This is a neon. This is a what is this called? This is a one of those neon colors. It's just a neon orangey red. I'm just gonna pop some of that into her hair, onto her neckline. I just want it to be like really pop in a little bit. Maybe up over that. I mean, I'm cool with this being sort of loosey-goosey for right now. I'm gonna have to let that dry. Kind of good with that right now. And maybe I'll do the little tap a little bit, just a little bit. I know not everyone likes that, but I really do. So I'm going to take a little bit of that bright yellow that I have here with a bunch of water in it. Actually, it doesn't need that much water because it's so watery. And I'm just going to tap it on a little bit. Yeah, it needed that a little for my purposes.
At this point in my process, I really just need to stop and take a break, let things dry, and figure out what exactly I want to do next. But this girl's pretty close to being done. Probably go in with some more charcoal, add some more dark, and I'll definitely sign her. But at this point, this is as far as I'm going to go for today. And I hope you really enjoyed this lesson. It was an absolute pleasure. And I can't wait to see what you all do with your own versions. Here is the photo of where I left things off at this point. So enjoy.